About a month ago, after seeing the final trailer for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I stated how that animation style could be a game changer for theatrical CG animation. After seeing the film, I still feel that way, but was the movie any good though? The story of the film is basically, it's inspired by the SpiderVerse storyline from a few years ago in the comic books. After an event with this world's Spider-Man, Miles gets bitten by a radioactive spider and gains Spider-Man's powers, as well as a bit of something else extra. Various spider people start dropping by because of an incident with the Kingpin and the Super Collider. All the spider people have to team together and stop the Kingpin's mysterious plan for the Super Collider before they, as well as their individual universes, are wiped out forever. Here's some positives I had about the film. 1. Stan Lee's cameo. I didn't cry during his passing because he's lived a long life, but I do have to admit that I did get a bit misty with his cameo in this film. A small nitpick though, they should have just ended that scene after he said his line and did not pan over to the left and show that particular sign. 2. Miles Morales. When I originally heard about the film and that Miles was the lead, I was excited. However, when I found out that the film would be a very loose interpretation of the SpiderVerse storyline, I was worried that Miles would only be a supporting player. Fortunately, that's not the case here. This is his story, his movie. I believe this is the best iteration of Miles I've seen yet, even better than his early years written by Brian Michael Bendis. A couple things that the film did was differentiate him from Peter Parker's character. He isn't as socially awkward as Peter, but he still has insecurities that kids, heck, adults have. Also, while it's brief, they do play up the fact that he is part Puerto Rican. He always has been in the comics, but it's always seemed to be lip service there. So I'm glad that we got what we got here, even though it wasn't that much. So hopefully in the future, that will also be part of his character, or they will go into a little bit that as well. The visuals, the character models, character designs, and animation. There's pop art stylings. I went more into this last month, so I'll be brief here. This is the most creative use of CGI I've seen in years. The last time I've seen as creative CGI was probably the Peanuts movie, and well, it's not a movie, it's a TV show, Knights of Sidonia. Now, while it might be asking too much, I just hope that animation studios will now start to stretch their muscles and try to be more creative instead of just doing the same sort of CGI style that's been coming out yearly looking the same. Also, I like how the pop art was mixed into the textures of the film. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Another thing I liked was Miles' purpose. The filmmakers set up a valid and believable reason why an inexperienced Miles has to be the one to save the day versus the more experienced heroes. Hopefully, more filmmakers will take note of this and be more creative when they do this sort of coming of age hero having to save the day type of trope. As far as the story, it's not bad. Like previous in the series, this was a coming of age story. Nearly everyone gets enough time to make an impact, and it was just pretty enjoyable. Another thing I really enjoyed was the opening credits. This has got to be the most innovative and colorful opening credits I've seen in a while. I did like the music. Most of the soundtrack and score isn't as generic as a lot of action movie scores. It's very distinct, and the music worked in the context of the film. The voice acting was pretty good too. No one felt off place. And sometimes that really happens when you get celeb voices. This really appears to be the year of Spider-Man, a relaunch of his comic book series. I hope it gets better though. A PS4 well-received game, and now this movie. It's really nice that after so many years, we are finally getting an adult Peter Parker in mass popular culture. Despite what people think, Peter's been out of high school since the late 1960s. So it is nice that movies and TV are starting to show that. Now here's some problems I did have with the film. The visuals. There is a constant blurriness in the backgrounds and on each side of the film. There is a critic out there that pointed this out recently, and while I think he may have gone a little bit overboard, I do mostly agree with him that there are times that this film did come off as unfinished. It didn't drag me out of the film much, but it is there, but I still enjoyed the film. I do wonder though, what was the turnaround time from the time this was greenlighted to the finished product? Hopefully it wasn't like a year and a half. Hopefully it was like 3 years, but I haven't been able to find anything out on that yet. Another problem I had was the music. While I did like the music and while it works, some of the songs may be too specific for its time and for rewatchability in coming years. However, just for right now, it works in the context of the film, but I'm not sure. I mean, 5 to 10 years from now, will this seem dated? Another issue I had was with the Kingpin. Liev Schreiber was good as the Kingpin, and I understood the Kingpin's motivation, but I don't think he got enough time to really explore. I don't want to spoil the movie, but I don't think his motivation, it should have had more time explored on it. Another thing is recognition. One thing that disappointed me was during the end credits, I didn't see, unless I missed it, the list of the prominent creators over the years for these characters. The previous superhero films did that. I think even Venom did that, but I can't really remember much about that film now. If the creators aren't in the film, then that's just wrong. It's a slap in the face to all the hard work these men and women did, and it should be recognized. And here's just some thoughts that went through my mind while I was watching the film. Aunt May. There was an assumption by fans that Aunt May would be the Madam Web character. She is in a way, but not really. Her character and home was used as a hub for all of the characters. Voice acting. All the actors are fine, like I said earlier. Nick Cage, between Mandy, Teen Titans Go, must be having the time of his life this year. That said, some characters can be seen as glorified cameos due to their lack of dialogue and screen time. Was it really smart to hire a celebrity voice for just a couple minutes screen time when you could have just hired a professional voice actor who could at least do as well and do multiple characters as well? After all, 2 days from now, who will remember what celebrity did what role? The character of Dr. Liz reminds me of celebrity chef Carla Hall. Was she the inspiration for design of the character? I didn't know that the Scorpion was Hispanic. If you look at the names on the phone list, there are comic book creators related to these characters. An example would be Dan Slott, Brian Michael Bendis, and Sarah Pichelli. While the after credit scene seems pointless but funny, it may have a greater importance for the future. That scene can set up a film for that character. Also imagine if in their film they meet previous animated Spider-Man like the 90s version, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and the Spectacular Spider-Man, and so on. Jack Johnson plays Peter Parker in the film, but not the only one. Chris Pine plays one briefly per the credits. At the end of the film, does Miles still have that comedy mallet? In the future, will Miles be thinking in comic book thought boxes as well? And will Miles continue seeing visions of what the spider was doing before it bit him like in this film did? Now, with all that being said, I do recommend this film. Despite some small blemishes, this is really a good movie that introduces the general public to a more recent character, or a few. Peter Parker's been around since the 1980s. Hopefully people will be drawn to him and them and want to see more of them and pick up their source material containing them. Okay, that's asking too much. How about this? Maybe this will get people interested enough in the character that this film is profitable, and have another film where he solos without the help of these other spider people. So, is this the best Spider-Man film ever? Well, that's tough to say. Usually nostalgia goggles play a part a lot of the times, and other times the newest is seen as an improvement over what's come before. See Spider-Man 2, The Amazing Spider-Man, and Spider-Man Homecoming for examples. With some distance, we'll probably know more. Okay, but is this the best animated or just plain film of the year? Well, I haven't seen as many films this year than last year, but I would say that this is my favorite film of the year if I hadn't seen another film about 2 days before this. That film is called When the Promised Flower Blooms, and it was released earlier this year. When the Promised Flower Blooms is a fantasy film that follows Makuya, who hails from a race of immortals who stop aging once they become teenagers. One day, they're attacked and she's separated from her people, and she finds a baby and that is being clutched by his dead mother. And the rest of the film follows their relationship as he grows older, but she stays the same age. We also see how they react to the world that's happening around them. Both SpiderVerse and Flowers had great lead characters in Miles and Micaiah and Ariel. The best parts of both films are the relationships between parent and child. I'll admit some of my most emotional experiences in film this year was Miles interacting with his dad during the third act and Micaiah and Ariel in the climax of Flowers. Each film also is very amazing to look at. I would give Flowers an edge here because while some of the CGI was noticeable, it wasn't as bad as the blurriness in SpiderVerse. I can't believe my two favorite films so far this year, just as last year, are such different animated films. Last year it was Your Name and A Silent Voice. I'm just so happy that animated films of such high quality that are also so varied are still coming out. I just wish the general public would be more open and try more than just the average Hollywood animated film though. Oh well. If you like this video, then please subscribe, comment below, click like, and share it. And if you'd like to help out even more, you can check me out on ARTSTATION, my website. As well, if you want to help out even more, you can donate at least $1 to my Patreon. And until next time, remember this. Watch more 2D and stop motion animated films and read more comic books from around the world. Venture on.